So while everyone has been talking about the Bulls and their potential pursuit and internal discussions about trading for Anthony Davis, and while I still wouldn't be surprised if the Bulls go down that route because they don't believe in building things slowly, and obviously this season has started off so poorly, building organically through their young core and drafted players, they don't want to do that. But what if? What if the Bulls actually went much bigger than that? Like, if they're going to make a risky move in going after someone like Anthony Davis, why not risk it all if they truly want to go down that route, or truly believe, like I called out in one of my prior videos, believing that they can be like the Indiana Pacers of last season if they can get their Pascal Siakam? A flawed strategy, flawed logic, like I called out in that video. But if that is really where the Bulls front office and their heads are at, why not go big? Why not go all in? And yes, the player I'm referring to when it comes to going all in is obviously Giannis Antetokounmpo, who I'm sure most have seen by now. The reporting come out, first reported by Shams Charania, that Giannis and his agent have started conversations with the Bucks about Giannis's future with the team, and that a resolution should be expected in the coming weeks. All indications is that the writing is on the wall that this will be Giannis's last season with the Bucks, whether he's traded before the deadline or during the offseason. It is simply a matter of time at this point. And so I tweeted this yesterday, and this was actually before Shams came out with that report that Giannis and his agent are officially discussing options about his future, where I said, look, if the Bulls are really just wanting to be competitive, if they are just wanting to skip steps in the rebuilding process, instead of going after Anthony Davis, which carries with it huge risks I've talked about before, most notably because of his injury history, instead of going down that route, they should just risk it all on Giannis. Like, really, if you're already considering transactions that are going to risk setting your franchise back, if you're going to mortgage your entire future, you might as well throw everything at the Bucks for Giannis. The worst they can say is no, or Giannis says no, since I expect this is going to be one of those scenarios where Giannis will dictate where he wants to go and give the Bucks a list of desired trade destinations. And yes, it's very possible the Bulls are not one of those teams on Giannis's shortlist. In fact, I would say it's almost a certainty, but walk with me for a second, because the Bulls can actually offer the Bucks a pretty substantial haul. More so than a lot of other teams throughout the league, especially contending teams who don't possess a lot of draft capital. And is it possible? Is there a world where the Bucks would say, well, screw your list, Giannis. We're going to send you to the place that gives us the best return, and you're just going to kind of have to deal. You're under contract after all. You're not a free agent. Now, there are risks to the Bulls if that were to happen, because the last thing you want to do is make an all-in trade for a megastar, all but to have said star be unhappy and disgruntled and demand a trade out, or worse, have them leave in free agency for nothing, which Giannis, by the way, could be a free agent after next season in 2027 if he declines his player option for 27-28. So in that instance, the Bulls would have to do everything in their power to keep Giannis happy and produce winning results, which has been very hard for the Bulls to do in recent days. So yes, I'm aware of the risk. Obviously, I'm sure the Bulls are aware of the risk as well, but I feel like when you're talking about a player like Giannis, a top 3 player in the league, in my opinion, I think it's consensus that he's a top 5 player in the NBA. He's on another stratosphere from a player like Anthony Davis. To me, I think it is worth the risk, and it doesn't hurt to make the Bucks an insane offer where the worst they can say is just no. Now, the question is, well, what would it take to land Giannis? Like, forget for a moment where he wants to go. Forget whatever the short list he gives is going to be of teams that he would want to play for, but what would it take to win a bidding war for a player of Giannis's caliber? I mean, we've seen guys like Desmond Bane go for 4 first-round picks. Still can't believe the Magic did that. Mikal Bridges, an insane 6 first-round picks, which, by the way, really limits the Knicks' ability to make a strong offer for Giannis when they have no draft capital to entice Milwaukee with. And as we know, over the summer, the Bucks did inquire with the Knicks about a potential Giannis trade, and those talks went nowhere because, once again, the Knicks didn't have a competitive offer that even came close to what the Bucks were looking for. But anyway, Bridges went for 6 first-round picks, Rudy Gobert for 4 first-round picks, really 5 if you include Walker Kessler. So yeah, getting a superstar, one of the best players in the league, ain't going to be cheap. You're going to have to give up a lot, unless, of course, you're the Dallas Mavericks, who just give away franchise players in their primes for pennies on the dollar. But the Bucks are different. They're not going to be willing to do that. They're going to want a package that is going to kickstart their rebuild. They're going to want picks, lots of picks, young players with upside, and expiring contracts that give them some cap relief going into the 2026 offseason. Now, fortunately for the Bulls, they kind of have all of those things. The Bulls can trade as many as 5 first-round picks, because even though, yes, the Bulls have control of all of their future first-round picks from 2026 to 2032, as well as their first-round pick from Portland that is lottery protected, the league does not allow you to send out consecutive first-round picks due to the Stepien rule, so the Bulls would only be able to send out their pick in 26, 28, 30, and 32, and then obviously the Portland pick, which makes 5 picks. They could obviously do 27, 29, 31, but that wouldn't allow them to send out as many picks. And if we're talking about creating a package the Bucks can't refuse, then you're gonna need to send all available picks, which in this case is 5. On top of that though, you're gonna need to send out players. Obviously, you gotta make the money work. And because the Bulls have quite a few expiring contracts, they can get to that figure that Giannis is at, which is currently $54 million. And the players I would be looking at if I'm the Bulls are Vucevic, Zach Collins, a salary filler and cap relief benefit to the Bucks. And then you've also got to add in some young talent that they can work with for their rebuild. Kobe White, especially since there is so much chatter about the Bulls and what they're going to do with him and his contract and whether it makes sense to trade him before he hits free agency. And then Noah Asenge, I actually added this in before we learned about Asenge's season-ending injury, which is a huge blow to the Bulls, but maybe that would be enticing for the Bucks to take on an 18-year-old player who's going to have a full year worth of recovery. Maybe could be a player that they can work with for the future. And so I ran that through the trade machine, and it was successful. Initially, I thought about including Kevin Huerter, but adding his salary would have been too much. And when I thought about including either Collins or Huerter, because you have to choose between one of them, I decided to keep Huerter. As everyone knows, you're going to need shooters around Giannis, even though Huerter has kind of sucked shooting-wise this season. But he is more of a movement shooter, a catch-and-shoot guy than Zach Collins obviously is. So in theory, he would fit better next to Giannis. And look, the reason I like this trade is because you don't have to give up part of your key young core assets in Josh Giddey and Matas Buzelis. Trading Giddey to get Giannis doesn't make sense because a player like Giddey, who's an elite playmaker next to a player like Giannis, is the ideal pairing. And then of course you don't want to move on from Matas either, who hopefully blossoms and becomes that third player in this quote-unquote big three, if you will. You also don't trade Ayo, so you could re-sign him, which he's obviously going to be cheaper to re-sign than Kobe White. And then going into the offseason, the Bulls would actually still have some cap space even, depending on how much they re-sign Ayo for, to sign other key role players to round out the roster around Giannis. The idea wouldn't really be to compete for a championship run this season, but more so beyond that once they have a full offseason and training camp with Giannis and they have the ability to bring in the right pieces to put around him. It is a pipe dream. Yes, it is. I'm fully aware of that. Is it completely out of the realm of possibility? I actually don't think it is. I actually think the Bulls could have a very small outside chance of being in the Giannis sweepstakes. And their chances would actually go up if the Bulls can actually get their shit together and start stringing together some wins to make Giannis actually want to come here. He has said before that he would love to play in Chicago. It's a big market. It's not an impossibility. We'll see what quote-unquote resolution comes out of all these discussions between Giannis and the Bucks over the next couple of weeks, and we'll see how real this thing actually might be. In the meantime though, guys, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on all of this. As always, be sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.